Did you ask them what they were going to give you for your old coach on trade-in? Do you know about what the difference was? How much more money you brought in by selling it private party than if you would have traded it into a dealer?
I think $25,000 is realistic.
What's up, everybody? Andrew Steele here. Today I'm with my buddy
Alex Peters,
good friend of mine. You may have seen a previous video when he was selling his 2003 Monaco. How did that sale process go?
Selling anything that big and that expensive and that complicated is stressful.
In today's video, we want to tell you all about Alex's experience selling his coach private party.
It's stressful. And it was an 03 and it had 110,000 miles and it was 116. It had its quirks. It had its peculiarities. And so to try to sell that and explain all that and to get that created a lot of stress. So I thank you for your help because, you know, before I put it on for sale, I went online and I looked at 03 Monaco dynasties and the range was unbelievable. Somebody was selling one for 50-some thousand and somebody was asking 120,000. And I'm looking at mine and I'm thinking, well, I've got this and this and this and this because I've been living in it for 9 years and I've customized it. And I'm thinking, well, it's probably not quite as nice as the one they want for 120, but it's sure better than, you know, the low. So I started out at 98,000.
And you originally told me that you wanted to sell it for $98,000. What did I tell you?
Well, you and I played a game. I asked you to come in with a figure and I was going to come in with a figure and we'd play a little game and see how close we were. So you came in, the first thing you said was, well, the NATA guides have it from 55,000 to 63,000. And my heart kind of went, yeah. And I said, well, I want 98,000. And you hemmed and hawed and, you know, you were polite and you were gracious and you thought the motorhome looked good and you know, good luck. But the undercurrent of all that was, and I get it now, I totally get it. If I were living in a house and my RV was in storage and I was paying $40 a month and I had a year to sell it, great. Get as much money as you can for it. But I'm a full-time RVer. I had already bought my second RV. I don't want two RVs. One RV is a pain in the ass enough. So I'm sitting there with two RVs in this RV park. So for me, I wasn't trying to maximize my price. I had to really think about it. I had to sell. That's what the point was.
I was a little bit concerned when Alex told me that he had already bought this awesome Mobile Suites fifth wheel and wanted to sell his Monaco and he was paying for RV sites for both of them. I was a little bit concerned, but how long did it take you to sell your coach?
Okay, so the first thing I did was slap a for sale sign on it at the park, and I didn't even have an ad on RV Trader because I was still fixing it up and cleaning it, and so the very next day I dropped it to 88,000. I felt pretty good about that. My wife was supportive and everything, and your video got a few hits, nothing serious, but you know, a little chit chat, a little interest, and that was encouraging. So I kept that 88,000 on the rig, and then I went and I developed, before I put the ad up, I developed a website with probably 60 to 80 pictures on it and long descriptions of everything of different systems. So on the day that I put the ad up in RV Trader, I also had the website up so I could link and your video. So I had the RV Trader ad with a link to your video and a link to the website. Nothing. No hits. 5 days of gnashing of my teeth. I dropped it to 78,000 and boom, the action came fast and furious. And you were absolutely 100% right. You know, it was all about, you want to sell it. If you have it priced right, you'll get some action. And at 78, I got the action. So from the day I put that ad up to the day the person who bought it drove away was only 23 days. And I ended up selling it for 70,000. So, you know, I was above the NATA because I had the solar, and that's what the person wanted. The person who bought it because, well, they liked the Dynasty, but it was the solar. They dry camp for months out of the year. So the specialty that my rig had caught somebody's eye.
Sell a coach in 23 days, it's got to be above average. And I tell people over and over again, if you price it right, it'll sell. So greatly appreciate you.
That is the rule. That if you want top money and you have time to wait, terrific, good for you. You might find, your buyer will, you might eventually connect with a buyer. But if you want to sell it, you got to price it, and that's what you taught me, and that was the reality, and it worked.
Yeah, and another thing I'll mention to that too is his coach had so many great upgrades that I think trying to explain all of those upgrades via pictures and text is kind of tough. So when we filmed that video, Alex was able to explain it. Any potential buyers probably got a better feel for what they were getting into when you can kind of hear it right from the original owner. I think that definitely, hopefully that helped added value. Did the potential buyers get a chance to see the YouTube video?
They saw everything. They studied it in great detail.
Oh, I'm sure.
They watched it multiple times.
I love it.
They ended up flying in from New York.
Wow.
Without a tote car. So I mean, they felt like they were 80% ready to buy before they ever saw it because of your video and my long website. But the thing, if you want to sell whatever I would recommend highlighting whatever your coach highlights are, whether maybe it's perfectly beautiful on the outside, or the inside is spectacular, or the engine has, or been recently redone or remodeled, rebuilt. Whatever your coach has, accentuate
let folks know. Yeah,
for me, it was solar. I had 1,600 watts of solar. I had good, strong batteries. I had a great inverter. I mean, it was off the grid. A sweet little deal with propane heat on the inside and the whole bit. So, and these people bought it for all those reasons. So whatever your coach has that makes it stand out just a little bit from the crowd, sell it.
Yeah. Now, how did the logistics? I want to ask you just about the whole logistics, because like selling, I've sold different stuff private party, and selling an old used car on Craigslist for $5,000 and selling a $70,000-$80,000 pre-owned RV is a whole different type of transaction. Can you tell us about all of the logistics of that whole transaction and how all of that played out?
All right. Well, it started off with the people that ended up buying it. A lot of emails and questions. I primarily interacted with the husband. He had a lot of questions. He knew exactly what he'd been living in a coach previously with solar. He knew what to ask. He asked all the right questions. So there was a lot of emailing going back and forth. And then these people wanted a coach kind of fast, which is to my benefit. I mean, it all transpired fast. And they flew in, they rented a car, they drove out. I let them stay in the motorhome at the park.
Very cool.
And they ended up staying there 4 or 5 nights. And we ended up doing a couple of repairs together, a couple of things that I hadn't finished, and he was capable of those things. And before I came in one morning, he had the whole dashboard off because the dash lights weren't working, and he had the whole thing off, had the part. We went to Napa Auto, bought it, plugged it in, and it all worked.
And was this before you bought it?
Before he bought it. Before he actually bought it. Yeah. So
you got to be a little trusting too. That's another thing you have to have some sort of, the buyer and seller have to have some sort of a mutual trust. I think that's important. You let him stay in the coach for a few nights. He even tore it apart. And were you a little nervous at that point?
Oh, well, the whole process was nerve-wracking. And I know, because I had just bought this DRV. I had flown all the way back to Maryland, and they let me stay in that for a few nights while I was inspecting it. And I actually hired an inspector because I don't feel like I have all the skills necessary. So
I think he does. I really think he does. But
well, I paid an RVIA inspector $600, and he spent 5 hours going through this thing top to bottom. So and he told me this is a well-kept RV. So
yeah,
I felt peace of mind there. Our buyers, they didn't do it, but we went through it top to bottom. We opened every bay. We walked around. We looked at everything. We talked about everything, and I think the RV and the solar, you know, that I found the right buyer. I got lucky. I connected with the right buyer very quickly. I did get lucky. I know that.
Yeah, so after you let them stay in the coach for several nights, you had a 4 or 5 day relationship with the person at
That's
this
right.
point.
No.
You're in a full
We
blown.
went out to eat a couple of times. When they took their rental car back, I drove them around Fountain Hills, took them shopping. At that point, though, they had transferred the money over, so
Okay.
they did a money transfer, and so and we were Arizona residents, so they got it titled and registered and everything, and they walked out with their plates on day, I think, 3. So the last 2 days, it was just a matter of me explaining all the systems and going through everything, and he asking. He's a smart guy. A lot of questions.
How did that whole process work? So they stayed in it for a few nights, and now you know, okay, it's a done deal. Go ahead and wire the money, and we're going to transfer the title. How did all the logistics of that whole situation work?
Well, I have to provide an account number, my bank account number, and a routing number. They go to their bank, and they initiate the process.
Did you have a contract or anything, or it was just all kind of verbal and a handshake?
I wrote out. Yeah, no, I wrote out a bill of sale, just a base. I typed it out myself. And I made sure the words "as is."
Very, very wise, smart man.
I don't know where I got that advice, but wherever I got it, I employed it. I got it in there. It's, you know, I mean, I hope everything works, but it's as is.
Yeah, and that's every single motorhome out there.
I highly recommend.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, so no basic bill of sale. And all
Yeah,
that.
so you did a bill of sale. They wired the money. You gave
Then you
them.
fill out the title paper. You transfer title to them.
Go to a notary, have that
'cause
notarized.
I owned it,
Yeah.
you know, in full, and I just fill it out, and then they walked right down in Fountain Hills, right down to the local. It wasn't the official DMV, but it was an offsite.
Desert Title, yeah.
Desert Title, exactly.
Third-party DMV, I highly recommend it. In the state of Arizona, so much quicker than the actual
It was the finest
DMV.
bureaucratic experience I've ever had in my life. I for a couple days, I just shook my head and said, I can't believe in 20 minutes you walked out with license plates, title, everything. It was like, I was in shock.
It really is not a paid advertisement, but Desert Title in Fountain Hills, Arizona.
Go there.
I buy and sell cars all in RVs and all this all the time. Definitely worth the extra $10 or whatever the fee is to not have to drive to Scottsdale and wait for 2 hours in line. So, have you talked to the owner at all since?
Oh, there's been 25 texts
Okay.
and everything about questions. Just questions. And I get it. I mean, I totally get it. I've had to contact the previous owners of the suites that I'm in,
Yeah.
and so I expected it. The motorhome is a complicated beast, and I had done upgrades and changed things, and I knew there would be questions. So, in fact, I told him as part of the deal, since Scott, famous Scott, the one that you have probably seen in other videos, Scott did so many of the upgrades on that motorhome that I told him I'd pay for an hour of time talking to Scott and working with Scott.
Consulting. Yeah.
Consulting, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's already happened. They've already spent an hour with emails and talking with Scott.
Nice. All said and done, selling your coach private party. If you could go back and do anything differently, would you go back and do anything differently?
Yeah, I would worry less. I mean, everything happened the day they drove away with the coach heading back to New York was the day I moved out here to McDowell Regional. I mean, you couldn't have timed this any better. This was like synchronicity in perfection. Logistics I wouldn't change, but it was just, you know, I stressed over it. What can I say? It's a lot of money. I had already bought another RV. I mean, I don't necessarily recommend that you do it that way. But if you're a full-time RVer, it's so much easier to move from one to the other if your other one's sitting right there. I mean, if I had sold the motorhome first, everything would have been in storage.
Yeah.
I would have had to move it. Then I would have had to move it back. So to have them like 50 feet apart and just shuttle the stuff was the only way to go. But there was a lot of money going out, and there wasn't any coming in at the moment, and that was a little stressful. Sir, you really helped me out. Good advice, great video.
Hey.
Andrew Steele, man.
Hey, greatly appreciate all of you that are watching. Thank you, Alex, for sharing all that great information and wisdom. And Alex has a lot more information, so we may have more future videos of all the solar upgrades and some cool stuff that he's doing to this DRV Mobile Suites behind me here. So, hey, greatly appreciate all of you. Hope you're all having a great day. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more cool content like this and meet more cool people like this.